Welcome to episode 226 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my guest this week's back on the show, Mr. Mike Potter, for Mac Guys Only and Mac Stock. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, Dave. Always great to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We always have a lot of fun here. And Jeff Gamet's back here on the show. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great, and it's a special treat to get to hang out with both of you at the same time.
Yeah, and we had a little bit of pre-show talking about Lego, so we got that out of our systems for the moment. And
So
we're here
for
so we think if we're going to sneak it in somehow, I'm going to find maybe a Lego iPhone or something, right?
I have one, a custom printed iPhone from it's just one tile, but it was from one of the custom Lego minifigure companies.
Yep.
Anyhow, see, there you go. Yeah. It's a thing.
I got you. No worries. I got you guys covered. So I think we had a few things that happened this past week. Apple did press release announce that the new iPad and the new Apple TV. Surprise of that one. We'll touch that a little bit. Lots of news as well to go on this week, so might as well just jump right into it here. So first news story, we have Google completes the rollout of iOS 16 lock screen widgets with its update to the Maps and Search. This last week. Google has now rolled out to all the promised lock screen widgets for its iPhone apps, including the Google app, Gmail, Google Maps, Chrome, Google News, and Google Drive. The rollout was completed. This was about a little less than a week ago. So all these little widgets are now available on the lock screen, which is awesome. I started playing around and put the search on the widget, and I think that's really cool. Just to be able to just tap it and do a search real quick and easy. You got any, Jeff? Have you tried this at all?
No, but while I have the Google apps, several Google apps on my iPhone, it's not because I want to use them. It's because there's integrations that I need for those apps to be there to work. Otherwise, yeah. But good on them. And it's good to see Google, even though they are a direct competitor to the iPhone with Android OS, that they're right here. Just staying on top of it and making sure that we have features like this when they promised.
Absolutely, Mike. Have you tried any of the lock screen widgets?
No, I haven't. And I have not really set up any lock screen widgets on my phone since I upgraded to iOS 16.
You need to.
True. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you do.
You need to.
No, the truth is I'm hoping 16.1 that's coming Monday is going to solve some of the frustrations I have with the way these lock screen setup, the lock screen setup process works. I find it overly complex for the simple things I want to do with it, such as changing a wallpaper. I just want to change my freaking wallpaper, and you're making me set up a whole new lock screen layout. I just want to change the wallpaper. And
we've got 200 as the max. So
yeah. So I found the process frustrating. The widgets are cool. I guess I could see using activity widgets or something like that on there, but for the most part, I don't need them. I have what I need on my watch, or I get the notifications I need on the phone. I haven't found a need for lock screen widgets yet.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's not for everybody, but there's quite the craze with the lock screen widgets and the lock screen customization for that matter.
Well, it's so new, right? It's new and shiny. So of course.
Yeah.
New and shiny. Yep. Next story here is iOS 16 features an all-new iPhone keyboard layout option. iOS 16 added native support to the Dvorak keyboard layout on the iPhone, providing users with an alternative to the standard QWERTY layout. And they were noted that this was going to happen a couple months ago, and a number of news organizations mentioned that. So I've never used a Dvorak keyboard. I don't know if you have, Jeff, but
I have tried, but I just haven't had the time to really get into learning it. But I totally get why it's superior to QWERTY. because QWERTY is designed to slow us down. It was designed to so that we wouldn't jam mechanical typewriters.
Right.
And Dvorak is designed to be more efficient, so you can type faster. Honestly, I didn't realize there wasn't a native Dvorak keyboard in iOS. The big news for me was when Apple said, "Oh, and this is coming," and I did the Scooby Doo because I thought it had always been there.
I did too. I had no idea it wasn't there. I have to be very careful switching keyboards because I learned to type on a membrane keyboard on my Sinclair ZX81.
Oh, good times.
Yes, absolutely good times. But that and then the chiclet keyboard on my Sinclair Spectrum are how I learned to type. So I have never taken a typing course in my life. I'm actually relatively good at touch typing for the most part, but every once in a while I need to just make sure I'm in the right realm of the keys on my keyboard to be efficient. Otherwise, things start coming out like that. And so to switch up or attempt to switch to something new like that would be a complete and utter disaster for me, I think. But awesome that it's there because I know a lot of folks who do use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So well, it's good. And there's so many other keyboards you can add. Well, now we got Dvorak.
And not
next story here is not John C. So Apple has begun selling the Belkin mount for using an iPhone as your Mac's webcam. Well, of course, I've been using my iPhone as a webcam for quite a while here with my Plexicam and using Camo, but macOS Ventura is going to have the new feature called Continuity Camera that features allow you to use your iPhone as a webcam on your Mac, and that'll be coming Monday as we record this. But Belkin they actually had showed this at WWDC that this was going to be available. It's just now gone on sale this week as we record, so it's $29.95. Of course, I bought it, and Apple. On the Apple's online store, I was supposed to have it yesterday, but of course, Apple makes you have to sign for it, and it's a $30 item, and someone's going to steal my $30 item, and I'm going to get really upset about, right? So I didn't get it today. But got to go pick it up. But it is available in black and white. Mounts right to the Mac with no special tools, and it's of course the MagSafe that attaches right to the iPhone with the MagSafe. And I'm looking forward to trying it out on the actual MacBook Pro lid and see how it goes. But it's not something you guys would be looking at maybe doing.
I'm very interested in this, in part because I don't want to take my my Logitech camera off of my Plexicam.
Right.
So yeah, this would be a cool way for me to have a higher resolution camera as an alternative. And if I'm traveling, then I could just hang it on my laptop screen.
Yeah, exactly.
And and I think I can put it on a tripod also. So I could do a multicam setup here. And,
yeah. Good. It does double as a kickstand, so it can be used as a kickstand with the built-in ring, so you can do it. It's very similar to what a pop socket does. So I think it's got multiple uses. Something you considered, Mike?
We spent quite a bit of time talking about continuity camera on for Mac OS only this last week, and Eric and I were trying to figure out the need for it. There's some really awesome features of it, and I know I'm excited to give it a try, but I hesitate to use. And as I said to him, I have my phone sitting here on the desk in a stand, so that in the event something comes up I need to take action on, I can take action on it on the phone. When it's being used as a camera, I can't do that. So I do have an older iPhone 8 Plus sitting here that I could use, and that would be perfect for it because the battery in this phone is starting to go bad. So tethering it to my Mac would be a great way to do it. But I have two questions, Dave. One, weren't you using a different holder for your phone, like a clear holder? I thought you had something else that you were using.
Well, I use the Plexicam now, but
that's what you're using now. Okay.
Yeah. Here, I'll just bring this over so you can see it. This is another Plexicam, but this is with another camera. But this is what it is.
Right. So that's a much more complex situation or setup.
Yeah, but the nice thing is it does keep you're doing eye level here because it's on my screen. I put it and I move windows over because I have my 32-inch monitor.
Yeah.
So it is nice there. But in this case, this is more for when you're traveling. You're not going to want to lug this thing with that. Where I can just take this. As long as the iPhone has got MagSafe, all you got to do is bring that small clip with you. It's an instant. Much better webcam than although the MacBook Pro, I have the M1 Pro that does have a much better webcam now, but iPhone's going to give you the best results.
Yeah, I have fallen in love with MagSafe accessories since I got the iPhone 13. Now that kind of contradicts what I said about not wanting to use my iPhone 13 as my camera while I'm using it, but I do wonder, will future editions of the MacBook Pros have a MagSafe adapter built right into the lid? That would be awesome.
That's something maybe in the future.
That would be great. Now, my other question is completely unrelated to that, and yet it's related based on something you said at the beginning of this news story. Have you tried FedEx's pre-sign feature? You can pre-sign for your deliveries and then not have to worry about missing them.
Too bad they used UPS.
Well, you can do it with UPS too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do the pre-sign for all those deliveries. I have not had anything disappear yet, but I'm also tracking like obsessively on delivery day.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So I'm there, whether I pre-sign or not. I'm there opening the door and pulling it in within minutes of it being delivered. I'll take a day off of work just to get a new delivery from Apple. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so check it out. We're definitely gonna. Once I get it, I'll give you my review and let everybody know how that is.
Cool.
The next story here is DaVinci Resolve, which is an awesome video editing program, which is more or less free, is coming to the iPad Pro, and it's going to have an enhanced version that is working, and we don't know officially as of yet. They didn't announce this actually yesterday as we record this, that they indeed are going to be releasing something in the fourth quarter, which we are more or less in the fourth quarter now, so it's going to be a little later here. It will be enhanced with the M2 chip that just came out with the iPad we'll be talking about, but I'm wondering where this is going to be compatible with. I would assume M1 for sure, but I don't know if anything beyond that. I think Jeff, you being a big LumaFusion fan and user, that works well with you have the A15 processor that works well for you, right? You think DaVinci would not leave the other iPad users behind, or do you think they'll release it? Because they haven't announced it yet. So as far as which models.
I've been wondering about what they'll do for compatibility, and it wouldn't surprise me if you need to have at least an M1 processor to use DaVinci.
Yeah, you would think, because it's pretty heavy duty.
Yeah, and which is not to imply that LumaFusion is lightweight. LumaFusion is a professional, full-on nonlinear video editing tool. And each update that they release, it adds in even more pro features. It's a crazy awesome tool. I am curious to see how DaVinci and LumaFusion match up with each other and compete. My guess is that the people you'll see that really, really dive into DaVinci instead of LumaFusion will be the people that have workflows where they're also using DaVinci on their Mac or their Windows PC.
Yeah.
Right. What about you, Mike? Because you do video editing. What's your tool of choice usually?
Usually Final Cut Pro is what I'm using.
Okay.
Which at this point, I don't know if you're going to talk about this other rumor, but at this point is not available for the iPad.
No, go ahead. If you want to talk about this is a related story to it.
Well, I did not see this in your show notes, but did you?
No, I didn't even see that.
Did you guys see the rumor that macOS may be brought to the iPad next year?
No.
That
I know that's always been discussed.
I saw this on Apple Insider just yesterday, and apparently there is a leaker who has claimed that Apple is working on a version of macOS exclusive to the M2 iPad Pro. Now, the interesting thing about this is obviously it's all rumor. This is all speculation. These are things that we could wish for a leaker to be telling us is true. We don't know that it's true, but they claim that it's a smaller version of macOS, something targeted exclusively for the iPad. They go so far as to say that there's a code name for it, Mendocino, and that it's expected to be released alongside macOS 14 next year. Now, I find this incredibly interesting. Now, they're saying that this could simply be iPad OS, but with more Mac-like features versus macOS for the iPad. But I can kind of see Apple doing this. They're bringing the hardware closer and closer together. Why not make a version of it? Give folks the option, which they want to pick at setup time, and allow folks to, we already have cross-platform-esque type apps in many cases that can run on iOS/iPadOS and macOS. Why not bring them even closer together? Mouse support on the iPad is lacking at the moment.
Right.
Support for full-featured Pro apps, with the exception of apps that are specifically designed for iPad, like LumaFusion, is somewhat lacking. I don't want to say that with 100%. I don't want to say certainty, but 100% across the board statement. But because certainly Affinity Photo, Affinity Designer, LumaFusion, these are all Pro apps.
All the Omni apps.
All the Omni apps. These are all Pro apps. In many cases, though, they're not feature for feature with the Mac apps. But wouldn't it be great if you could just run the Mac app on the iPad as well? I
know there's always been a big debate about it.
There's a big debate about it, because if you want to do that, why not just buy a MacBook Air? Seriously.
Exactly.
If you want a portable Mac, buy a MacBook Air. Why would you even bother with an iPad that's going to end up being more expensive anyway? So you have to take all of this with a big old giant block of salt, like you'd buy outside of Ace Hardware for your water softener, a big salt lick, and say, gosh, wouldn't that be cool? But I don't know if that's going to happen. But I just saw this rumor last night, and since you asked me about Final Cut, I use Final Cut.
I'll say if macOS is going to come onto the iPad, then why wouldn't Final Cut not work on it either?
Why wouldn't Final Cut work on it either? I don't see Apple making a version of Final Cut for the iPad. Who knows? Yeah, weirder things have happened. Yeah. But
they should, but I'm with you. I don't expect it.
I don't expect it. Yeah, they seem to kind of pass the pro level apps on to others. We're not seeing Logic for the iPad. We're seeing GarageBand. We're not seeing Final Cut. We're seeing iMovie. We're not seeing any kind of on Mac or iPad, any kind of professional photo management tool. They're allowing others to grab those flags and run with them. So I don't really see Final Cut coming over to the iPad. But if there is some sort of lightweight version of macOS, then why not? It could be interesting, is all I'm saying.
It could be. And, honestly, if Apple is not running iPadOS on a Mac and running macOS on an iPad in their labs, I would be stunned. I mean, they mess with stuff all the time. And you remember the whole Intel transition? They'd been running macOS on Intels in their labs for years.
It was years they were doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And don't tell me they weren't running macOS on A15s for before they came out with the M1.
Yeah. My guess is that Apple has been doing this chimera thing with their products and operating systems in their labs for a long time, which is a great way to figure out what works and what doesn't, so that when we actually get public releases, we get things that make sense because they've gone through the trouble of figuring out what totally fails before it ever gets out of a secret lab.
I agree with you. Yep, it is Tim Cook's monster, not Frankenstein, right? Right, it's Tim Cook's monster down in the lab underneath that giant circular structure in Cupertino. There's a secret lab with vines hanging from the wall and lightning shooting through the ceiling and all that kind of stuff, and that's where they're doing all this stuff. But I agree with you. It's happening. It's been happening, and it will continue to happen.
Absolutely. Well, I put that in the show notes now. Thank you I had missed that story, but that was a good discussion, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, for sure.
If at all, if it's just an option, I think that would be cool. But I don't know. I can't imagine that Apple would consider it being the permanent operating system at some point.
As long as you're speculating, here's my speculation. Let's say Apple actually releases this, and the rumor's legit. It's not going to be an option when you set up your iPad. Do you want to run iPadOS or do you want to run macOS? You buy an iPad that runs macOS, or you buy an iPad that runs iPadOS, and you don't get to change your mind later.
You know where I thought you were going with it, Jeff? I thought you were going with a Mac with a detachable keyboard, which is essentially the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's take a MacBook Air. Even if they won't ship it with a detachable keyboard. It'll be a $250 option, but it'll be, or $350 option, but it'll be essentially a tablet Mac. That's what they're going to sell it as. Right. It's not going to be sold as an iPad running Mac OS. It'll be sold as a tablet Mac.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Which means, of course, they would have to go touchscreen, and Apple's been pushing back on touchscreen Mac OS forever.
Which makes sense because Mac OS was never designed for a touch interface.
Nope.
And we can see how that's worked out for Windows. People tolerate Windows Touch, but it's not.
Oh,
it's
damn!
not
I hit the screen
experience.
again.
The article does touch on that when you get a chance to look at it. They do touch on this being a lightweight version of Mac OS and with a larger interface for touch purpose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I got the link in the show notes here with that last news story for this week. Let's go on to topics. We always talk about beta, but before we get into 16 beta, iOS 15.7.1 was released, and I didn't even realize there was a release candidate that just came out. But it was made available earlier this week. Actually, this was yesterday, the story as we record. It says that it apparently is preventing a Face ID from working on at least some iPhones, according to some reports over social media. Affected devices included iPhone 12 Pro, iPhone 13 Pro models at a minimum, but it's quite possible it's other models that are impacted. Affected users who were attempting to reset the Face ID on the iPhone would say, get a Face ID not available. Then I worry that maybe they think it's a hacked screen or something, because you'd always get that when you replaced it with a non-Apple screen. So I didn't realize that there was a release candidate. I have a developer account, and 15.7 has to stick around because there are devices that are end of road as of now. It's like iPhone 7 and older, up to the ones that were still compatible to 15. So they are still keeping those in place. So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. But just wanted to mention that for those who have older devices that you may be experiencing a problem. Hopefully not, because that's why it's release candidate. It's still being tested. Any thoughts before I move on to iOS 16.1?
No, other than I have thought the entire process of iOS 16's release has been an interesting one. That Apple is giving folks the option. Do you want to move to iOS 16, or stay here and
Like
we'll give you 15.7 or whatever. I don't remember that ever being the case. I always remember
they did that.
Oh, you're on iOS 14. Here's 15. Oh, you're on 12. Yep. Here's 13. I don't remember there ever being a choice saying stick on this one or go to this one.
I think it started like around iOS 14 or maybe iOS 13.
It was last year, so it was iOS 14 to 15
for
transition.
14 to 15, the transition.
I don't remember that. I just remember it saying,
oh yeah, we talked 15. About that because it would kind of appear at the bottom of the update screen. Oh, by the way, also available.
If you had an iPhone that didn't have a big enough screen, it would just be hidden. And there's no indication that you would need to scroll up to see the line at the bottom. This is, by the way, there's a new operating system. You want it.
Yeah. So, that started at between 14 and 15.
Wow. Yeah. So, see, I pretty new. I missed the option. I guess I just upgraded. I said, let's go for it.
Yeah. Well, it's because you live on the edge like that.
I live on the edge.
So Apple did seed the 16.1 and iPad OS 16.1 release candidates to the developers, and I believe it's in public beta as well. The official release date is going to be October 24th, which is a couple days away from when we record this, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see where it goes with a lot of the things. You noted some of the features you were looking forward to, Mike. What was it that you were talking about in 16.1?
Well, there's a feature I'm hoping comes, and that's just that some of the simplicity of setting up my home screens returns. Like I said, for example, I just want to change my wallpaper. I don't want to go through the whole process of creating a new layout and all. I just want to change the picture. That's all I want to do.
Well, they have that first home. You have that first page that you can't. I don't think you could change it though. It's because it's under. Well, I guess it's under collections.
To do what should be a simple thing is overly complex. I don't think the process of creating new layouts for the lock screen is complex. I think that's actually pretty good. But when I want to do something like I used to do, just
like where you go to settings.
Yeah. Settings, wallpaper, boom, done. I don't want to have to go through this whole process each time. And that is the one thing I kind of hope comes back. Because if I go into wallpaper and then customize, I have to go to customize.
And then you get the whole screen modification thing and not just pick a picture.
Pick a picture. I just want to pick a picture.
Yeah, no, like it used to be, like in 15. Like in 15.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we'll hit a lot. I'm just going to just review the features that are coming, and we'll talk about it next week because everybody will have it live after Monday. So, but you got the iCloud shared photo library. It allows you to do it much more seamless sharing. The live activities, so third-party apps such as Uber or even sports leagues like Major League Baseball and NFL can put real-time scores in those in that live activities. Fitness Plus is going to be, and then that was just announced during one of the press releases that's going to be able to be used on an iPhone, and if you don't even have an Apple Watch. The wallet is going to have some much more secure ways of doing your car key, hotel room, and other keys in the wallet. The key sharing, where you can actually share that key. And then Apple did announce, we talked about this last week, that they are going to be creating a new savings account for the Apple Cash Card with the Apple Card customers. Yeah. So that daily cash can be just put into a interest-bearing Goldman Sachs savings account that's linked right to the Apple Card account.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So that's going to be awesome. I'm going to set that up. That's very cool.
What do you think about this clean energy charging that's coming to 16.1?
I still don't understand it.
It says it aims to decrease the carbon footprint of the iPhone by optimizing charging times for when the grid is using cleaner energy sources. Wonderful. Isn't that overnight? Don't they always say don't charge your phone overnight?
Because I do charge overnight, but then I have the warning that it's saying it's optimally charging. So.
Right. Yeah. I'll turn it on. I mean, what can it hurt? I don't see how it can hurt anything, but I'm kind of curious how that plays in with the optimized battery charging. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, so I do want to know more about how this works because when is the best time based on grid usage and all that to charge your phone? My guess is the answer. It depends. Where are you? What time of year is it? How hot or cold is it outside? There's a ton of different factors that can come into play. So is your iPhone identifying its location and then talking to the utility companies in some way to get their data on when's the greenest time to charge your device and then doing that? Or is it more like, this is a lower power usage window, so now we'll do the charging?
I'm trying to read the little fine print here. There's a photo of the beta screen. And to your point, Jeff, it says in your region, iPhone will try to reduce your carbon footprint by selectively charging when lower carbon emission electricity is available. And then it says iPhone learns from your daily charging routine so it can reach full charge before you need to use it. Now that's the fine print from the screenshot here. And then there is what you and I are both going to tap on as soon as we see it, learn more. And I think that's going to be the interesting part right there is how is Apple making this determination? And will it work everywhere? Do they have to have a relationship with the energy companies in a particular region in order for this to work so that they have the knowledge of when this...
My guess is a lot of that data is publicly available. And
that's true. It could be.
Just like so much weather data is publicly available. It wouldn't surprise me if this is something that they can just access by scraping some public databases.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and then the iPad OS is definitely finally coming out, and that was delayed for over a month here. We had iOS 16, so iPad OS 16.1 will be out right away. A couple of features that probably won't be available right away, which include external display support. That Apple did announce that full external display port will not be available when iOS 16.1 is released. Instead, it'll be included in an update later in the year. Talking lots about Stage Manager. I think everybody's excited about Stage Manager. The new multitasking UI allows you to be able to multitask between your macOS Ventura as well as in iPadOS 16.1. As we had that controversy where only M1s were going to work, of course M2s now as well. However, they softened those restrictions and now it goes all the way up to a 2018 A12X or a 2020 A12Z. However, those A series iPad Pros will still not be able to run Stage Manager on an external display, and it sounds as if Apple has no plans of making it work later either. So they're going to be a bit limited with that feature. So there's going to be a bunch of other stuff. We'll hit that as far as when that happens as we get it in our hands and start playing with it. Beta's coming down to a halt here real quick. I wouldn't be surprised we already see a 16.2 at some point right off the bat to get everything up here. So definitely interesting here. So, but the big thing that happened was Apple quietly, but everybody made a big deal out of it. This release did some press releases instead of doing an Apple event, and which I found that to be very interesting. This is the first time in a long time I remember that Apple actually did this. And we had a bit of a debate on the Mac Show earlier as we record about this, but I don't know if I missed the hoopla or not. The events were, like my Mike, of course, we're always doing our reaction time episodes, and those are always a lot of fun that we do, but on For Mac Guys Only. But we could probably do that now and just read press releases and just start talking about it like we're doing right now. It's definitely something interesting in the sense that they did this. I know Jeff, you had some thoughts about this. I think it's might be the wave of the future, but then again, who knows? I mean, I think it's just for such free advertising for Apple. I find it interesting that they opted in these announcements.
Well, Yeah, I don't see this as Apple's only avenue going forward for product releases. This is just
Right.
one of the options, and they felt this would be the appropriate one this time around. And as I've been thinking about it more and more, I mean, yes, there's the longer media cycle you get from Apple says we're going to have an event, and so people talk about it ahead of the event. Then there's event, they talk about that, and then after the event, you have people talking about what happened in the event. And so you get this longer maybe news cycle out of it. But what they did here, they're still getting tons and tons of coverage.
That's true. That's true.
So I don't know if they're really missing out on anything, as far as media coverage goes, by doing the announcements this way for these products. They certainly won't do this for, say, the Mac Pro whenever that finally ships. That's going to be an event.
Yeah, absolutely. So interesting the way the event unfolded. So I'm kind of going to reverse the order a little bit here. We're diving right over to the iPad. I want to talk about the Apple TV a little bit here because I don't think it'll take us long to talk about it because it's usually not a long topic. But they did announce a brand new Apple TV 4K with an A15 Bionic chip and the HDR10 Plus. Base price at $129. It's cheapest Apple TV that's has ever been announced. So I think that's kind of exciting in that sense. It does support HDR10 Plus, which is for higher quality video playback, and also comes alongside with a Siri remote with a USB-C port on the remote, which is cool. One bummer thing about it is that they're not including a darn cable to charge
they gotta
the darn
save
thing.
that 50 cents, Dave.
Yeah, that 50 cents to save that cable. So it's definitely interesting in the sense. And here's another way they're cutting costs here with this. They're going to start with a 64 gig model, which I'm perfectly fine with. I don't think I've ever had any problems. I know, Jeff, you mentioned it before in other shows that we talked about the Mac Voices that the apps take up a lot of space, especially games.
Yeah, games take up a lot of space.
Yeah. If you're a lot of gaming, I'm not a gamer, so you won't see. I think Mike's the same way. So I don't think that's a huge deal with 64. But the 64 does not come with an Ethernet connection. Then who is always? I don't know if everybody uses Ethernet ports on their Apple TV. I think I got close to my connection, I think it's important to do it. But a lot of times people are it's down in their family room, wherever they're nowhere near their router, so they use Wi-Fi. So now Apple opted to exclude that Ethernet port on the low end model, and then you go up to the 128 gig version that does have the Ethernet port, and that brings the price up. I believe it was to $169, and also supports threaded networking on the 128 Wi-Fi version. So those were available as they announced them a couple days ago as we record, and they're going to start shipping on November 4th. So we got 2 weeks before that's going to be hitting. So interesting to see what they did. This our a friend of the show and frequent guest Andrew Orr did a comparison of the last year's and this year's model in Apple Insider. Here we have a link in the show notes about it, and he dove in here and just kind of giving a comparison between the 2021 version and the 2022 version. So really, weight is a huge deal here. It went from 15 ounces to 7.3 ounces. Boy, that's quite a dramatic drop in size. I just noticed that.
Yeah.
And then the spacing kind of doubled as far as storage goes. But everything else was more or less the same. You got Wi-Fi 6, you got HDMI 2.1, all the other stuff was in there. I don't see a drastic much of a change beyond the processor bump, because you went from the A12 to the A15. But I even noticed I did grab one of those 2021 models during the Amazon Prime deal when they were selling them for $109.
Mm-hmm.
And I was using an HD, which is was a much older iPad. You definitely notice the performance increase from that and that one, but you definitely notice even more with this new model when you go from the HD. And Apple did discontinue the Apple HD model, which is not surprising. So we're down to just this one model now with the two different sizes. So, do you have comments on this, Jeff, with Apple TVs? You have an Apple TV, right? You've been using it.
I do. I'm still rocking an Apple TV HD, but that's only because
good, actually. I still have it as a spare.
Well, it's fantastic, and the only reason I haven't moved on to a 4K model is because my ancient Sony Bravia TV, the display is still absolutely stunning. And so I'm just going to keep using that TV until it dies. I like what I'm seeing here. And I like that we have the thread support built in. It's if I had a 4K TV, even if I had bought a new Apple TV 4K like last year, I would go ahead and get this because there's enough in it for what I do that it would make it worth it. I mean, getting it just because it has thread, okay, that would be reason enough to get a new one for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, you have Apple TVs in your house? You use them?
I primarily use Roku Ultimate. I like the flexibility and expandability of it. A lot more channel choices. However, I do have an Apple TV HD. It might be an HD at the office that I use primarily for casting my Mac screen up to the TV when I'm doing demos and things like that. It's always great. And it works great. I think, as you pointed out, for the $20 difference, I think some of the information that's really being buried about this is for $20, you're getting a heck of a lot more at $149 than you are at $129. It's almost like they're trying to reach that price point and say, okay, well, here's what we can give you for $129, but you really want this other one. And I believe Jeff just mentioned this, and you can verify this for me, guys, is the Wi-Fi plus Ethernet is the only one that can act as a home hub, correct?
No, they can both act as home hubs.
They can both act as home hubs.
Yeah, the difference is they both have HomeKit support. The $149 model includes Thread support as well.
Okay. Oh, and that's what I meant. A Matter home hub.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't clear in my home hubness. Yes, the Matter or Thread support is only in the Wi-Fi plus Ethernet model. For $20, I don't know why I would even consider the 129 model.
I can tell you the very narrow set of circumstances that would make me say, "Oh, just get the 129 model." If I needed this as a secondary device that was going to be used for like screencasting and stuff. Otherwise, I would get the $149 model that does everything. Yeah, and I should point out too, I didn't mention this, but the Roku Ultimate works great for AirPlay. Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic AirPlay.
Oh yeah,
device. Yeah,
oh, absolutely. Yeah, we use that. We use that all the time too.
Yeah,
it works really well.
But
works really well. So, but yeah, that's so. Like I said, I didn't think there'd be much else to talk about with Apple TV. We can get that out of the way here. If you're in the market for a new Apple TV, especially if you have an HD, it's definitely worth taking a look at that. Mm-hmm. I don't have any 4K TVs either, so I'm all rocking 1080p. I have a older Samsung curved 65-inch down in my family room, and still has a beautiful picture. I mean, I just have no really a reason why I want to upgrade till it dies. So, and I've had it for about 5 or 6 years, so it works great. My TV 4K it's got to be 15 years old, easy, which is crazy.
Ours is over that.
Tony?
Ours is over that. Yeah. We have one of the original LED projection TVs, not halogen, but LED projection bulbs. And one of the reasons I got that was because I wanted the longevity of the LED bulbs in it and not have to be replacing halogen bulbs every so often. And it's a 1080 HD TV. It's got a fantastic picture. It's a short throw projection, so there isn't a lot of loss of image as it's projecting. It's not one of those big old honky ones. At its widest, it's a foot deep, and then it's less than let's say I think it's probably less than 3 inches at the top. So it's a very short throw internal projection TV with an LED bulbs, and it's been running great. Knock on wood. We did think for a very short period of time that it was giving up the ghost, but no, it was just a reset. We had to reset it, and it was running fine since then. So we're good. We update our streaming boxes, and we're happy as clams.
I've got a Roku too. I'm on all the platforms because I'm nuts and have to have like a three-way HDMI splitter so I can watch all three on a single TV. So whenever I went to get in the mood of looking at Roku, I moved to that one. And I agree with you. Roku does have some benefits. It does have its own Roku channel, which is awesome. There are a lot of extra content on there and a lot of other stuff. But I'm still kind of partial to Apple TV. I don't know. It's just I do like the interface.
And you know what? The Apple TV app works great on a Roku. Once you click on Apple TV to watch something in Apple TV Plus, you're instantly in an Apple experience. It's not an Apple app that fits within the Roku experience. It's an Apple app that gives you the Apple experience on a Roku box. It's really, really well done. One of the best or most well done apps on the Roku I've yet to use.
Absolutely.
As it should be.
Absolutely.
As it should be.
Yeah. So that's Apple TV. Go check it out. They're going to be on sale. You can buy them now, and they'll ship on November 4th. So let's move on to the iPad. The iPad Apple did introduce 2 new iPads in the line. The iPad Pro has been upgraded to the M2 chip. So what they've added a couple of new features. So it's got the ProRes video capture. It's got a super fast Wi-Fi 6E, which I have on my Eero. So I could take advantage of that if I really wanted to. And of course, iPad OS 16 really is going to enhance everything when that comes out. And a lot of breakthrough with the performance of the M2 chip. Are you going to notice any difference between the M1 and the M2? I kind of going to say maybe not, but I know this feature was super. You were super excited about, Jeff, and you can give us some of your insights again on it. Is the Apple Pencil hover experience, being able to hover with the pencil and to have a completely new dimension to interact on the screen. So kind of tell people where is that benefit alone going to be to thinking about upgrading to this model?
Well, as someone that's used a stylus and graphic tablet on my Mac for decades, just having the Apple Pencil iPad experience was great because it let me create art and write and do things on that device in a way that's very similar to what I'm doing on a Wacom tablet. The feature that I was always feeling was missing from Apple Pencil, like all the way back to the original Apple Pencil 1, was the fact that you couldn't hover over the surface and have the stylus register. So on my Mac, when I hover over my Wacom tablet, my stylus acts like a mouse, and you can watch the cursor move around the screen, but I'm not actually interacting with anything directly. So when you translate that over to the iPad and the hover feature, now what you're getting is a preview of what's going to happen when you touch the surface. So if you're an artist, you can see what's going to happen with whatever your brush is. So you'll see how big the brush surface is. You'll see what happens with colors when they're interacting with what you're painting or drawing versus what's already there. So it's a great way to be able to see what you're about to do without having to do it to see it, undo, and then try something else. So this I think will be a time saver and productivity booster for people that are routinely having to experiment to see if they're going to get what they want. Now they can just kind of look and be like, nope, no, test this tool. Okay, that looks like what I want, and then touch the screen and start working. The fact that it will register the angle, detect the angle of your stylus, that's a big thing too. And I think we'll see over time a lot of things, at least in the art space, start to take advantage of being able to detect the angle of the stylus, which is something that I can't do with my Wacom tablet. So either it's going to be time for me to start using my iPad as my primary graphics tablet with my computer, or time to invest in another Wacom tablet.
Well, we got to keep that Inktober continuing on. So
that's right. Yep.
Mike, do you have an Apple Pencil? Do you use? Are you using any of those features with your iPad?
I have an Apple Pencil. It's a first generation Apple Pencil.
The first time? Okay.
Yeah. The iPad Pro I have is the older 10.5-inch iPad Pro. Okay. I was not aware of the hover feature. That is fantastic. And Jeff's right. Yep. This is going to be a big, big game changer. You don't have to inadvertently make marks in your illustration to find out that, oh, I'm using the wrong tool. Mm-hmm. So that'll be something fun to try when I get the opportunity to. Overall, I think this would be a leaps and bound upgrade over what I currently have. I don't have a use case for it though. And that's my issue with the iPad is for the I purchased the iPad for MacStock. I purchased the iPad to be a controller for my Sling Studio that I use at MacStock, managing the cameras, controlling the recording process and all that kind of stuff. And when MacStock is not happening, the 2 or 3 days a year that it's not happening, it's primarily a media consumption device. And that's about it. I don't use it for any productivity. I tried setting it up with Sidecar. Didn't find that all that, terribly useful. And I don't really do any productive work on it for the most part, just minor stuff here and there. So I would need to have a great use case scenario to upgrade to a new iPad Pro. And I fear that use case scenario will be when my old one is no longer supported. That's going to be the use case. Okay, now it's time to upgrade to a new one.
I think this is going to be the last year, I bet. If they go to iOS 17, I might be, or iPad OS 17.
It may be.
I have this feeling.
As long as the Sling Studio software continues to run on it, though, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. And you can stay on.
Now, the interesting thing about the Apple Pencil is I purchased it, and I had all these wonderful visions for how it could be used, and it does work great with Affinity Photo. It works fantastic with Affinity Designer. I've used it to take notes, but for the most part, my Apple Pencil is gathering dust and losing battery charge on the counter of our kitchen. And every once in a while, when the iPad reminds me that it needs a charge, I'll go over and I'll charge it. And then it stays on the counter gathering dust and and losing battery charge. So it honestly, for me, the Apple Pencil was not a good investment. I did not end up using it the way that I thought I would. I'm again, it's a first generation Apple Pencil. And there's apparently still some use for it, which is something else I'm sure you're going to talk about in a couple minutes. But I bought this wonderful Belkin case for it, though. It's an amazing case with a magnetic lid and the pencil fits in there and the little adapters and all that fits in there wonderfully. And it kind of sits in there. And that's
how mine is.
That's about it. So
check out the Pro. They got the full line. You can the link. The the link of the article as well as information about all the new iPads are out. They kept pretty much the same, the storage capabilities on the Pro line of series. You got the 12.9-inch screen, you got the 11-inch screen. Prices will vary all the way up to about $2,000 if you really want to max it out with a 1 terabyte storage. But it can get pretty pricey, and they got the cellular versions as well. But the other thing I wanted to hit, as you just mentioned, Mike, is the iPad, the 10th generation model that was announced. So they announced that the next new generation of the iPad. The iPad, the 9th generation, was the last holdout with the Lightning connector on an iPad, because all the other iPads in the line have had the USB-C. Well, the 10th generation now has USB-C. You got the same storage. The pricing is a bit different. You go with $329 from the 9th gen to the $449 for the 10th gen. And storage is the same, 64 gigabytes, which I still find to be crazy to be that low. It costs them nothing to put at least 128 and 256. The screen resolution is about slightly better than it was with the 9th gen. I do have a link in the show notes again for our friend and frequent guest on the show, Andrew Orr, did a great comparison of these two models. You go from 10.2 to 10.9 inch of the screen. Processor goes from an A13 Bionic to the A14 Bionic. I don't see that being a huge jump. I mean, as far as processing speeds goes, they did completely redesign the iPad 10th gen, so it's more in line with the design of the square off feature like the 2018 models, like the 2018 iPad Pro, and the 11-inch, very similar to that. This was the interesting thing they did do. You got the rear camera is now at 12 megapixel on the 10th gen, but they did move the front camera. Now it's in the landscape position. So because we figure, and Apple finally realized, okay, that means that a lot of people are taking their pictures when they do use an iPad, because you look so dorky when you're holding it this way, with it looking up and down where you wanted to have it landscape mode. So they did put the camera in the landscape position. It's an ultra wide 12 megapixel, and of course center stage is still compatible with it. So you got the landscapes 2 speaker that's included. Again, I talked about Wi-Fi. This is Wi-Fi 6, which so you do the most current when you have the most current with that. The Touch ID, they moved it to the power button, just similar, the same exact one as the iPad Air. So it has that, and then you got more colors. You got the blue, pink, yellow, and silver. Don't have space gray. So they did it was because we always had space gray. The biggest complaint I think of a lot of people are going to have, they still kept the gosh darn Apple first generation pencil. Makes absolutely no sense that pencil still has the Lightning connector on the top of it. You have to take the cap up. Okay, well, where are you going to plug it in? Well, you got to use that Lightning to USB-C adapter with a little thing here, and plug it into a Lightning to a USB-C cable to plug it into the iPad in order to be able to charge it. I think this is the most strangest thing. I've talked about this before. I think Apple's thinking potentially is the fact that they may not have wanted to put the mechanics like they have it in the other iPad, like the iPad Pro, where the second generation Apple Pencil is magnetic, where you can just stick it on top of the iPad and that's how it charges. Extra cost, but they still added the extra cost with the $449 versus the $329. So I know, Jeff, you've had some thoughts about this with this pencil. I think it's just absolutely ludicrous, and I think you kind of agree with me.
I do. I mean, the whole process for charging an Apple Pencil 1 is an engineering nightmare. I can't imagine how it got through the entire process and became a shipping product, and is still a shipping product. So here's my take. I think that Apple has an engineering issue that's preventing them from letting the 10th gen iPad use the Apple Pencil 2. And I think they also, because they have a lot more information about how people use their products than we do, they have found that most people that are using an iPad versus an iPad Pro or iPad Air maybe they're not using the Apple Pencil as much compared to the other models. but they are doing more like video chatting. So why not give them the feature they're using more, which is put the camera where it makes sense, and then, but once they do that, then I don't think there's room to have all of the elements that make up the wireless charging. So they'd have to move that somewhere else, which means covering speakers, and they're not going to do that. Yep. So the easy answer is keep the old pencil, throw in an adapter into the box, and call it good. And then also sell the adapter for an extra $10 on the side for people that need it, because everyone's going to lose their adapter, or they're going to upgrade to this iPad from an older iPad, and then they have to go buy the adapter so they can charge their Apple Pencil that they already have.
Yep. And by the way, that adapter is already a month out of stock, so you can't even get it if you want to buy an extra.
Can you imagine getting one of these brand new iPads to replace an old one on, like on day one?
Yeah.
And now you have no way to charge your Apple Pencil.
But I had thought that adapter came with every pencil. I guess.
Well, what if you already have the Apple Pencil? Is what I mean. So you're replacing the iPad and continuing to use the Apple Pencil you already have.
Right.
And now you can't charge it.
Yeah, my first gen Apple Pencil. I'm sorry, I spoke over you, Jeff.
Oh no, go ahead. It's all you.
My first gen Apple Pencil has the lightning to lightning adapter. That's what came with mine.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not believe that this new iPad comes with the adapter. I believe the only way you can get it
comes with a pencil.
It does come with the Apple Pencil.
You have to purchase the pencil to get the adapter, but the iPad doesn't come with the adapter. So to Jeff's point, if I were to purchase this iPad and want to use my Apple Pencil 1, now I have 2 charging setups. I have the Lightning to Apple Pencil charge and the USB-C charge for the iPad. And it would be nice to bounce back and forth between the two.
Yeah. So this can be interesting. I think it's going to be relatively popular, but interestingly enough, Apple has opted to and chose to continue on selling the 9th generation, because that's going to be the lower price point.
I think that's probably for schools.
It's probably going to be for schools. Yeah, they're going to stay in the mix, but a consumer could still purchase it if they so choose. But yeah, that iPad always you see them during the holidays. You'd see them lower price, like $299, $269, depending on what the discounts are through the retailers. So yeah, it could be interesting to see it. But it does kind of saturate the market a little bit with all the iPads that are in the line now. You go from the iPad Pros to the iPad Air. I'll talk in a minute, and then you have the iPad, and then you have the iPad Mini. So they have kind of saturated this a little bit. But what I want to talk real quick about is the differences in the 10th gen of the iPad and the 5th generation of the iPad Air. So obviously a big jump is the M1 processor. So you're talking about $150 more to go with the Air versus the 10th gen. The Air does also support the 2nd gen pencil, which is a big difference there as well. It does have a lot more in the sense of support. Both have the Magic Keyboard. I didn't even mention that the 10th generation iPad now has a new Magic Keyboard, which is $249. So add that to the mix, and you've got some pretty expensive stuff there for someone looking at entry level model here. But you do see a bit of a difference when it comes to the Air when it comes to performance, and you got to justify, is it really worth your $150 increase? And it may not be. Somebody might be just perfectly happy with what the 10th gen does, but it's kind of small number there, $150 to go right back up. I mean, the iPad Air is going to support Stage Manager in there because it's a higher end model. But what do you guys think? You think Jeff does something? Is it worth it for anybody that want to just go jump right into the iPad Air? I mean, the Air is a 2022 model. They did revise it, so So it is a current model. But what do you think?
It depends on the use case, but
Yeah.
If someone was asking me about purchase options for a general use iPad, something that's going to give them the most bang for their buck and is going to give them the most versatility in what they can do, regardless of what their intentions are, I would steer them towards the iPad Air. I think all around that's the best just general use iPad. So why not spend the extra $150, move into that, and now you have something that lets you do potentially a lot more, gets rid of the weird charging situation for the Apple Pencil if you want to have one, and you have basically a pro iPad at a not pro price.
That's how we always advertise the iPad Air as, and we've always talked about that on the show here. Is the Air is just a bargain, comparatively speaking to the having to go jumping up to the Pro. Still have an M1 chip. I mean, but you're getting you're getting a little bit of a break and still getting pretty much a lot of things that you probably don't need in the Pro that the Air offers. So people have to think that too. Do you have any thoughts on that, Mike? Before we wrap up,
just one. Since we started this discussion about the iPad and the iPad Pro, the phrase that keeps coming to mind is there's been a lot of hate heaped upon the iPad, the new iPad, the 10th gen model.
Yeah.
And we talked about potential reasons why, one being the pencil, but I don't think it's the pencil. I think it's the price. I think $449 is a big ask. Now, this plays into what we were just talking about, but $449 for an entry-level iPad is a big ask. Now, yes, they kept the 9th gen in there, $329. Wonderful. Schools can use it. Small businesses using square stands can use it. That fits the form factor of the square stand. There's a big market for that. And there's a big market that will need to replace iPads on an occasional basis. So there's a reason to have that there, short of Square redesigning all their stands. But I think the price point is too high. I really think that that might be the mistake that Apple made here.
Yeah.
So, maybe rather than keep the iPad 9th gen at $329, look, we know it's going to go on sale, as you said, around the holidays for $299 or less.
Right.
That's what we paid for our iPad to go into the Square stand was, I think, $279 we paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Why not just make it $299? Let's admit that's what it's going to sell for to most folks. $299. It's going to be on sale, $30 off all the time. So just make it $299 and then maybe bump that iPad 10th gen down to $399. And I wonder if that $50 price difference would alleviate some of the hate that's been heaped on it, that people would start to say, oh, yeah, okay, I understand it's still using the Apple Pencil 1, but look, it's under $400.
Right.
Now we're pushing, there's been a lot of studies done. Why does gas sell for $249.9? Because people don't want to pay $250. They want to pay $249. And when we see $449, my brain goes to $500. I jump to that next level. When I see $399, I go to $400. I don't go to $450. And so I wonder if there's a little psychological manipulation that could be done here to take the same thing. Yes, look, they made a lot of improvements to this. The Touch ID in the sleep wake button is fantastic. The camera on the side is revolutionary. That's amazing. You talked about people taking pictures with it, but as Jeff pointed out, Zoom calls, FaceTime calls, we don't want to be holding our iPads in portrait mode. We want to hold them in landscape mode. Mm-hmm. That's how we want to see our friends and relatives. We don't want to see them in portrait. I want to see Jeff in landscape mode. And so moving the camera to the side is fantastic. I love that. But I just wonder if maybe that's subliminally, if $449 is what's causing so so much animosity towards this model iPad, because otherwise it's a fantastic machine. And as an entry level device, if someone is saying, I just need something, I need to consume media, I need to make some FaceTime calls, I need to do this, I always point people towards the iPad. You might point towards the iPad Air, but that's just a little too much for that type of user. Someone who borders on prosumer type user, the iPad Air is great. Absolutely, no question, especially with that M1 in it. But for that entry-level user, I almost always steer them towards the iPad. Even at $329, the 9th gen iPad is a great little machine. So I don't know. That's where my thinking is on this, that it may just come down to price on this.
Yep. All right, guys. That was a great conversation. A lot of discussion about the new products. We'll definitely have more as we go in future episodes. But let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. Support the show. Buy me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You can also become a Patreon of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so when you're notified to when we do our live stream, which is usually on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios, where you can also watch and listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discussed are flipped into the magazine. The link is in the show notes, so we'll have plenty to flip this week. A lot of articles about all these topics. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, which includes Mimir, Pocket Casts, Overcast, and many others. But better yet, go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Mike Potter, thanks so much again for being back on the show. Where can people find you?
Thanks for having me, Dave. It has been a blast. If folks want to reach me, they can reach me at formaceyeesonly.com or @formaceyeesonly on Twitter, or max.conferenceandexpo.com or @max.expo on Twitter. That's where you'll find me these days.
Thanks, Mike. Jeff, as always, great to have you on the show. And where can people find you?
It's always loads of fun to be here. People can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm Gamet everywhere, like basically everywhere. And most Tuesdays on Mac Voices Live with Chuck Joyner and with you, Dave. And then Thursdays on The Big Show, and then most Thursday evenings here with you on In Touch with iOS, then on Fridays on The Mac Show, and then also on The Context Machine with Brian Chaffin.
Great. And thank you for listening. We hope you'd enjoyed the show. We enjoyed doing it and had a great time. A lot of great topics, and we'll talk again soon.